Okay, let's do a quick rundown on how to create this grid with the nice tight spaces between the cells. So when you get your test template, it should be set up something like this, and you can use the sample image to your advantage to lay down guides. So to do that, we're going to make sure that our rulers are showing. So we do that with a command R. When the rulers are showing, we can pull down our guides and make sure that they're lined up where we need them to be. So I'm going to do one at the top and one at the bottom, and just about one for everywhere we need to have one of these cell divisions. So it's pretty straightforward. And let's see, here we go. And actually, I think that should do it. So the next thing we want to do is, because we're going to go change the size of these columns and gutters, is we're going to set up a guide here to indicate the new or original starting point, right? So you can see that kind of sticking out at the bottom there. Finally, what we're going to do is go back to layout, margins and columns, and we're going to change the gutter spacing to 0p4, and we'll hit OK. All right, and so what you can see is that tightens up the gutter spacing on our grids, right? So next we take our rectangle tool, and I'm gonna zoom right in there and start in that original starting point and pull down. And before I release my mouse key, I'm gonna add rows and columns. So we need 6 rows and 3 columns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows and 3 columns. So that's what we should be looking like. And then I'll release, and then there you go. We have our basic grid set up. And to get it looking the way we want to, the next thing I'm going to do is select the stroke color and set that to none. Then I'm going to come over here on the right and move my fill into the foreground, and then use my eyedropper to sample this background color that we have over here. So that's pretty straightforward. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use our gap tool to line up these grid cells where we need them to be. So pretty straightforward. And then for the vertical ones as well. And we're just kind of eyeballing that. And here we're just going to kind of get that about as close to being in the middle as we can, and if need be, we can adjust that later. Okay, so it should look something like that. And then once we have that, we can select this corner cell and get rid of it, and then select these 5 cells, and we'll go back to our eyedropper tool and we'll sample that darker gray. And then we'll come up here and sample the red. And then we'll come over here and we'll sample the blue. So that's pretty straightforward. Now if I do change my columns and margins of columns back to the gutter of 1p0, you can see that that probably needs a little adjustment. Maybe I wasn't zoomed in enough, but we're pretty close there. And so, in fact, I'm just gonna come in here with my gap tool and just tighten that up a little bit. I think I can do that there and pull that right back in to that margin. And then if I use my W key for a preview, you can see that that's pretty clean. and that's what we're looking for. So the last thing to do is try to eyeball the spaces between the picture and the grid. And we know that this is set up at 4 points, and our nudge is set to 4 points. So I'm just going to pull that down and then use my arrow keys to nudge up. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I know I'm looking pretty good for that. All right. So, and then the typography and moving the other stuff in should be the last of this. So it should be pretty straightforward. Okay, and I think that stuff is all covered in other tutorials in this series. So hopefully that's helpful and should get you through your test. All right, thanks for watching.